Hello, welcome. This is the first video on my new channel. May have one video hanging around somewhere on YouTube, but it's old and it's cringe and we're just not going to talk about it. I want to apologize in advance for the noises you may hear in the background. I have to record when I can, where I can. My setup is shit and I'm hoping to improve that soon, but as of right now, it's while I'm on my lunch break at work. So, now that we've gotten that out of the way, you may now be wondering, what in the late stage capitalism was the algorithm thinking when it brought me here? I could ask the same thing, but I'm glad that you came. So, why did I decide to start a YouTube channel? Why this? Why? Just why? Well, the why is that I've been telling myself and everyone else that will listen that I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel at some point, and for years I have not. I have this chronic condition called perfectionism, and I feel the need that everything is going to have to be perfect before I start something. And in order for things to be perfect, you have to have money, and I don't have money. So I finally decided, instead of just saying I'm going to start it, I'm just going to cut my losses, take what I can get, and get started. Who knows? Maybe if you like me, maybe if you like this, we can improve the situation. First step is improving my recording spaces. Anyways, what do I want to do with this first video? I didn't know. I've been racking my brain back and forth. What do I talk about? What do I talk about? What do I do? What do I do? What do? How? I don't even know where to start. Because half the time, the videos I watch on YouTube, I don't know about you, they're from established creators. And I went down and I started looking at people's first videos and I found that nobody knows where to start. We all just kind of start. And so this is it. This is me starting. And really the only thing I felt really strongly about for the last couple of months, enough that I've been rolling the idea back and forth, over and over and over again for a potential video or podcast or something that I want to talk about somewhere in the public sphere, is parasocial relationships. And I'm pretty sure you cringed at that moment, and that's fine, because that's been kind of the talk of the town, is parasocial relationships this, parasocial relationships that. I actually know that there's a creator that I watch a lot that very specifically states they will not become friends with anyone who watches their content because of the parasocial relationship. And I even kind of found myself disagreeing with that stance. Not particularly that I find fault in that stance. They do what they need to do. I totally understand their reasoning for it, but I don't particularly think that it's 100% necessary. So, with all of that groundwork laid, with that intro out of the way, I want to chat about parasocial relationships. Now, a disclaimer, I'm going to put everything that I kind of researched, not saying that it's in-depth research or anything, but I'll get that link down at the bottom for y'all. I'm not claiming that I know anything that I'm talking about. I'm just kind of chattering about the things that I found, the things that I find interesting, and trying to start a conversation. We could say that this is kind of in line with the rant days of DeviantArt, because I always wanted to do a rant channel and never got it in time. So with all that fluff taken care of and all that fluff out of the way, what is a parasocial relationship? What even, how? Why are we talking about this? What is this big thing about the new kind of relationship? Well, it's not actually really new. That was something that I thought was super interesting, and something I actually don't hear mentioned in the videos I hear talk about parasocial relationships. The term was actually coined in 1956, and it was coined by Donald Horton and R. Richard Wohl. And these two gentlemen in 1956 wrote an article called Mass Communication and Parasocial Interaction, Observations on Intimacy at a Distance. And I should have that link down below as well, just so you can read it if you're curious. Not saying I read the entire article, but I skimmed kind of what I could find and kind of just gleaned some information. So there might be some wild things I'm saying here that are completely wrong. Feel free to fact check me. Feel free to tell me that I suck. Feel free to tell me that I'm awesome. Feel free to just, put something in the comments there, raise my engagement. Throw me a like if you feel like it. Throw me a dislike if you feel like it. YouTube's removed the dislikes that you can see, but I'll know. It'll be our little secret. So regardless of that little tangent there, when I was looking at the history of parasocial relationships, if you can tell from the title of the article, they called it a parasocial interaction. So what is a parasocial interaction versus a parasocial relationship? Because I feel like that's kind of an important distinction to help people understand. So a parasocial interaction is more of a controlled experience, in a sense. I kind of feel like it's likened to reading a book. So if you are reading a book, you're really invested in those characters, you're invested in the storyline, you're invested in what's happening. And during the time that you're reading that book, you feel like you're there. But when you're done reading the book, you close it, you're sad, oh no, it's over. But it's over, it's done. You are removed from that interaction. And so it stays very much isolated in the world of the fiction. Kind of like also maybe watch Friends, and you're a part of the group of friends on the TVs, and when the episode's over, you are no longer a part of the group of friends, or you're no longer going to the cafe and it's always sunny in bar, and it's always sunny in Philadelphia. You're no longer a part of Dunder Mifflin. You're no longer, working for the Parks and Recs department. You are just yourself again. The parasocial relationship is outside of those controlled interactions, and I would say that in a modern sense, it's more related to content creators, influencers, podcast hosts, people who post on social media. Back in 1956, the focus was more on celebrities and radio hosts, which I think parasocial relationships, this is an opinion, have become kind of a hot topic, specifically since 2020, since the panorama happened and people were quarantined. We were kind of forced to really live our lives on the internet, which increased the likelihood of creating parasocial relationships with creators. A lot of people started their YouTube channels, started their streaming, started their podcasts because they had a lot of extra time on their hands. They were no longer, doing an hour-long commute to work. They were no longer, having to deal with being in the office. And some people had a lot of free time on their hands. And being that we are developing these parasocial relationships with internet personalities, we also have essentially a 24-hour window into their life. Some of it can be very, very controlled, but in the sense of the parasocial relationship, humans don't really care about that, because with a parasocial relationship, you create a relationship with your idea of the person. And part of what is attractive about parasocial relationships is there's no fear of rejection in creating that relationship, because you kind of create the relationship with the idea of your ideal person. It's almost like those crushes that you would have in like middle school, in high school, or like maybe college, I don't know. But like when I was younger and like a little tiny thing, I'd have a crush on this person and I would create this entire ideal image of who they could be and what that relationship would be like. That person was never anything like my idealized version of them. And I think that's kind of a similar vein of phenomena that happens with parasocial relationships when it comes to creators. Now, there is some disagreement as far as what causes a parasocial relationship based on what I've kind of seen. There's two popular schools of thought. One is more popular than the other just because it was kind of the more readily accepted one, and I think it is in line with the quote-unquote boom of parasocial relationships, or at least visibility of parasocial relationships since 2020. And that's down to loneliness. People who are in need of friendship, in need of companionship, in need of that connection with another person, they are more apt to create parasocial relationships with creators. They are more apt to become attached to a certain creator. On the flip side of that, where researchers kind of disagree, is that yes, loneliness can definitely be a part of it, but at a baseline, it's really just a product of the human condition. So humans really at a baseline, all they want is to make connections with other people, make connections with like-minded individuals. I would say that that's just kind of the tribalism of humans. We want to have our group. We want to have our interconnected little, pods of people. And it's just like, no, I want my like-minded people in my echo chamber with me. And so we create these parasocial relationships because that's just what we're looking for, people who are like us. And since we have access to the internet, we have access to way more people, and we can bring more people into our kind of metaphorical tribe of, these are people that I am comfortable with. This is my team, for like this is my end of the world team. These are the people that I want on my compound when the world ends. And I think that the latter is just a more inclusive idea to the different kinds of people that are out there. Because you might have somebody who is incredibly introverted and only has, a handful of friends that they really talk to. And when they went to being quarantined and couldn't have access to those friends, they were lonely and in need of a relationship. But then you also probably have the same kind of thing happening with extroverted people who are just used to constantly being around people, used to constantly having social interaction. And again, it's bottomed out. So now they're looking to keep that social interaction up. So I think it's equal parts loneliness, equal parts human condition. But that's my opinion. And so, we build all these relationships. We get super close, metaphorically, to our idealized version of this creator. What happens when the creator messes up? Now, I think in general, we have moved on as an internet culture from straight up canceling and now holding people accountable for what they've messed up. But I think whether we cancel or hold people accountable, you're still going to experience potentially what I've seen coined as the parasocial breakup. I personally started feeling really strongly about parasocial relationships when I realized I had created a parasocial relationship with a creator. It's the only creator I've ever felt strongly enough to financially support. I, at the time, really didn't make a lot of money, so I had to be careful with when I would support creators and how much I would support creators for. So I never really did anything consistent. This creator was the first creator that I was like, no, monthly, I will give you money because I like your content. I want to see more of your content. I want to see more of you. Well, they got raised earth in the last couple of years. I try to keep it vague. And in that moment, I actually sort of was in denial at the beginning of everything. I didn't want to watch any of the videos about their downfall. I wanted to ignore that they had messed up. I wanted to just pretend like, no, this is not my person. This is not what they would do. They're not like that. Because I was still kind of in my idealized, like, no, that's my buddy, that's my pal, that's my friend. And like even creators that I wasn't a huge fan of would make videos about the situation, and I was like, well, you're just wanting to take credit. You just want to hop on the bandwagon. And very much in that denial phase. I refused to recognize it. And then when I finally I saw it too much, and I was like, okay, no, I need to look into this situation. I need to be a responsible viewer and vet the people that I am financially supporting. And it wasn't good. It was not good. It was very bad. And the person deserved to be deplatformed, honestly. And it was an interesting feeling that I felt after that as a fan. I felt like my heart was broken. Like, I felt like I had been betrayed by this creator because they weren't the idealized version of the person that I had come up with in my head. And I kind of had to go through the stages of grief and finally become okay with the fact that this was no longer a creator I could support. This was no longer a creator I could give my money to. This was no longer a creator I could watch. And so I guess all of that said, where does that leave us? Well, Are parasocial relationships bad? I don't particularly think so. I think they actually help some people who maybe struggle to make friends. I definitely have a group of friends on a Discord server where some of them came in from watching the person's stream, and that could have maybe been considered a parasocial relationship in the beginning, but it's developed into a real friendship. Those are my real friends. And then sometimes people maybe become too dependent on the parasocial relationship and feel that they are entitled to every second of the creator's time, and that the creator should be held up to this unreachable standard of blank. And so I think we just need to watch ourselves, and we need to kind of keep in mind that parasocial relationships are just something that we're going to live with, and something that we just don't understand yet. If you feel like I'm wrong, if you feel like I maybe didn't clarify, or you walked away with a different understanding from this little ramble, cool. Put it down in the comments below. Let's get that engagement going. Let's get it started. If you want, you can like. If you want, you can subscribe. I totally understand, though, if you're like one of those people that needs to watch 3 videos before you subscribe, do it. I appreciate your faces. I will see you next time. Peace.